when my buddy Ace Austin asked me to make his newest theme. We were out in Vegas together. He said, I'm looking for something that's a little more new metal-ish, guitar-ish. And I was so excited because no one had asked me to make a theme like that yet. I'd always wanted to. So to be able to do that and show, hey guys, I can also do this within this space was a real door opener and even eye opener to me, because I'm like, I think I can do this. I really want to do this. Can I do this?
You are listening to the Ropes N Riffs podcast with your host, John Kiernan.
So back before I started doing themes pretty heavily, and as I've been a fan in wrestling, one of the themes that I had heard that I was just like, all right, cool, this goes on the playlist, this is at the gym every day, is the Guerillas of Destiny theme. And I'm like, oh, cool, No Name Tim, he must be pretty sick. And then all of a sudden I start hearing all this other music come from No Name Tim, and same thing, this must be a really cool dude. Great. And then all of a sudden we start talking, all of a sudden you're on the show. So I feel like even before us being like, oh, cool, we occupy the same space, it's just like, man, these songs are awesome. And now you're on the show. And I thank you for making the time, my friend.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. I feel like this has been an extremely long time coming. You and I can't remember when we had our first interaction, but I just remember just being just very natural, like just kind of like, kindred music spirit type stuff. And when you started the pod, I remember being super excited for you and proud of you and thinking it was such a cool thing to, highlight, not just musicians, but music and wrestling and that connection and the through lines and, the various people that have been a part of it. But at the same time, I'm like, man, like, why hasn't John asked me to be on yet? And then last week, it just so happens you hit me. You're like, hey, did I ever send you the link? And I was like, I never got a link. And then it was, and then we made it happen as soon as we could. So I'm super excited.
You just pulled a little bit behind the scenes too, which is for many people who's like, hey, I want to come on the show, or many people, I want to get on the show. And it's like, hey, let's make it happen. A lot of the times it's like, awesome. And then I wait like a couple weeks or like a month. And I'm like, I wonder. And then I'm like, did I ever send the link? And they're like, no. Like, great. So 101 for anybody who wants to do their podcast with guests, always send your link, always send your calendar link, and then check like 10 minutes afterwards to make sure you did. Because otherwise they'll end up like this schmuck. So, not you, me.
but yeah, I'm happy. I'm super excited to be here. Super excited to talk to you.
Same here. And one of the things for, like I was saying before we had even started talking, was you have a lot of these songs that precede you both in wrestling and out of wrestling. And one thing that I've always really appreciated about composers and producers is the composers and producers that can kind of go into different styles, right? I think that there's in the industry, and just not just wrestling, but in music in general, you have people who are very much one style, and that's great. They're really good at that style. You get what they get from that style, right? But then, especially when you're working in an industry where you want to be able to create the sound that anyone's asking for, you think of Hikuleo, now Tonga in WWE, you think of like Fallyn Grey, you think of Brittnie Brooks, you think of all these people that you've worked with, and all of those have very different feels and different styles. So for you, I'd love for you to walk a little bit through some of your process in terms of creating a theme when you're talking to a talent. And then, for me, I know my kind of primary style is heavy rock and metal, things like that, but you're able to do all these different things too. So for you, is there more of a style for you that like, this is my comfort, or are you just kind of like, hey, I'm the jack of all trades and whatever you need to do, we got it done?
So I do pride myself in being extremely versatile across the board. Chalk that up to just 21 years now of being in the music industry and being a producer and being a writer, and working with rappers and R&B singers and pop artists and bands, and just kind of accumulating that over the years. I would say that the rap and pop realm is more of my comfort zone. And when I started doing themes, it was where I settled and what people were kind of coming to me for. But over the years, thankfully, I've had other people reach out and request, something that's a little more rock oriented or a little more metal oriented. When my buddy Ace Austin asked me to make his newest theme, he was like, hey man, I kind of want something. Thank you. he's like, hey, we were out in Vegas together. And he asked me if I would be down to make him something new. And I said, absolutely. And he said, I'm looking for something that's a little more new metal-ish, guitar-ish. And I was so excited because no one had asked me to make a theme like that yet, but I'd always wanted to. So to be able to do that and show, hey guys, I can also do this within this space, was a real door opener and even eye opener to me, because I'm like, I think I can do this. I really want to do this. Can I do this? But as far as like the process with working with talent and creating a theme for them, for me, it all starts with, okay, who are you? um, what is, as a gimmick and as a person. And it really just comes down to me saying, hey, send me 3 to 4 references of what you're looking for, the vibe. I want to get in the world, in the space of what you're looking for, so that I'm not just kind of throwing darts at a wall. I want to be able to dial in the sound and then move forward from there, make sure I'm in the correct space, and then we can go.
I love that. And it sounds so similar to the way that I've done it too is, what do you want people to know about you before you hit the ring? And you kind of nailed on something that I think is important that a lot of people don't think about. It's the gimmick, right? Obviously of the wrestler that you're working with, but a lot of the times and in wrestling and in media, you can say there's a lot of sameness to, okay, cool, like it's an undead character or they're just a really good wrestler or something like that. But when you dial into who the person is kind of outside of that, even if you're really sticking to the gimmick, you can still throw things in there that make it very focused about that wrestler. And I think that I forget what YouTuber I was watching a while ago, but it resonated with me about like they do rebookings and things like that. And they were just like, everybody in wrestling kind of has a similar trajectory of like, I enter wrestling, I want championships, I do good or bad things. So there is a level of like sameness there, but every person's individual story is unique. And if you focus on those points, then you're able to drive that home. So I'm always excited to hear it's like, hey, it's not just the gimmick that we're focusing on, but we're also focusing on who you are and what would this mean to you and how can we deliver that to the audience? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Because I want it to be as much as an extension of the character as it is the person. I mean, maybe that's going like a little too deep and unnecessary, but to me, that's coming from, working on records for major label artists and that kind of thing. It's about telling their story as, as they've lived it. So a lot of times those personal things are also informing the character of the wrestler. And I remember I set that tone from the gate when I did the g.o.d theme. Well, first I did a unreleased new singles theme for Tama. That's how that ball kind of got rolling.
And so that one was
Um,
unreleased. So that one most people
yeah,
haven't
yeah,
heard
yeah.
of.
He
Okay.
originally had contacted me asking me for new solo music because they were going to rebrand him a little bit. But then him and his brother continued to get bigger and bigger as g.o.d, and that kind of ship sailed. And then he circled back almost a calendar year later to some of the other ideas that I had worked up for him and was like, hey, I think this will work great for me and my brother. Can we, repurpose this into a g.o.d theme? And that's kind of how that started. But I remember talking to him and being like, I want this to represent you as a person as much as I want it to be something that you would listen to in the back before you hit the curtain, as much as it be the connection to you and the fans. Because that's something a lot of people don't think about is in wrestling, if you're at a show, right, your first connection to your favorite wrestler isn't necessarily seeing them. It's audibly hearing the music that represents them. And that's why I feel like it is so important to have something that is dialed in, that is personal to you, that represents you, because of that connection. If you don't have that connect, it's not going to be as powerful as it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about someone like Guerillas of Destiny too, and that was kind of around the time of the Full Bullet Club and that they were doing all those things all in, and you have such a difference in voice. And I'm specifically you, I think, with that song at that time because the composer that works generally with New Japan and has for a while has a sound that they have, even if they're going for more of a hip hop style or a rock or metal style. It sounds very much like him. And then you go over at that time to WWE, and you have CFOs who were doing great work too. And we know a lot of the different composers over time. But when you hear something like your song, the Guerillas of Destiny song, and you think about it at that time, it felt so different than what you hear for everybody else too. And I always felt like Guerillas of Destiny were kind of like very street, very
Yes.
tough, very much just like we're gonna hurt you in every flavor at any time. And it was just like you hear that, and I felt like being in New Japan and even going wherever else, it was just like you knew that it was something different. You knew that it hit differently, and you knew that there was another name doing it. Like, I'll even say for myself, there are things that I do that if you kind of go through my catalog, you'll hear little things that are just like, oh, that's the John thing, whether it's in like a, Spanish trap style or a metal style or whatever. It's just, there's little things, and maybe you guys don't hear it all the time, or maybe you do. And I'm just glad that you're so hyper perceptive. Thank you. Welcome to the show.
Right. Right.
But I'm just always like, okay, there are those little things. But with you and with that one, it was just like, oh man, it's so different, so unique. And it definitely came through for them. And then you have all of this other music, like you said, and I want you to highlight a little bit of what you had said a second ago. You said that you've also worked for other major artists as well.
Yeah. 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 I mean, over the years, I've worked with. I mean, the list is kind of extensive.
Rolls out
But
the 1004 holds list right here.
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Armbar. So but the main artist I work with, who I'm kind of like his in-house guy, is an artist from Canada, from Toronto, named Kofi. Um, I do the majority of his stuff. Executive produced his last album and have been on every one of his albums since 2018. I've worked on records for the late great Nipsey Hussle, Simba. I've been working a lot on stuff for Wale, Chris Brown. Will all those things make projects? Who knows? I always joke that my discography of just miss outs is insane. Whether it was a sample clearance issue like it was with Schoolboy Q, or whether it's albums getting pushed back and getting songs falling off, that kind of thing. But yeah, I've worked with so many insanely talented individuals at the major label and at the independent level in my career, which is just it's awesome. I mean, music's the best.
Absolutely, yeah. And you talked about Wale. Also, Wale is big into wrestling, also, as we know. Shout out to all those guys. And when you talk about working with a lot of these bigger artists, even outside of wrestling, how has the work that you've done with those guys influenced the music that you do for wrestlers?
Oh, it's all it does. It's over the years, it's just been stacking experience upon experience and stacking just getting reps under your belt, right? Um, it's funny to me how, I shouldn't say funny. It's very interesting to me how similar the music industry and the wrestling industry is. Having so many friends now who are professional wrestlers, and also having friends in the music business and being in the music industry. It's just the parallels are eerily similar. um the art is different, but the ways that the art, all the construction around the art is very much samey. But yeah, it's helped a lot, whether it's dealing with artists and being able to communicate with talent and that sort of thing, or just even from a creation standpoint. Again, just working in so many different genres and working with so many different artists, having that ability that hopefully whatever a wrestler might be coming to me for is something that I can create. If it's not, or I feel like it is out of my wheelhouse or something that I think they would be better off going somewhere else, I have, like, my ego's not too big to be like, hey, I don't think I'm the best person for this. Maybe you should reach out to John. Maybe you should reach out to somebody else, because I think that they can give you what they're looking for better than I can. I'm not one to be like, oh yeah, I'll do it, and then just figure it out and give them whatever. I don't want to just give them whatever. I think everybody deserves to have the best possible song possible.
Yeah, and you also know what that sounds like too, both from working with big artists, working with lots of wrestlers. So for you, you really have a key into what your strengths are and even kind of what your sub strengths are, right? And that's like when you think of a certain style that maybe you're not familiar with, you're like, okay, cool. Now you have this Rolodex of people that you can reach out to and work with. And it's one of these things, like you said, it's about what do you know you can do. And I know for me, years ago, it was just like versatility. When I was like, okay, how do you make it in the industry? Versatility is key, right? And no matter how versatile you are, it's like there are always going to be those things that you're just like, man, I could do like 90% of it, but it's that extra 10% that's really going to push it. And if I can't do that, then I got to know who to reach out to. And for me, that's always vocals. Like, I just
Yeah.
started
Oh,
doing
yeah.
vocals on things,
100%.
but, like, when I do vocals on a few things, it's very, like, Killswitch Engage, very Heat, that kinda stuff, which I love those guys in Killswitch. I love, like, a lot of that music and
Yes.
obviously, like I talked about, but, like, then someone's like, "Oh, can you bring a rapper in?" And I'm like, "Yes, please," because I can't do that.
Because
And
I'm
then you
not
all of a
doing
sudden
that.
have this Rolodex of people, and it's just like, ugh. It's cool to be able to see those merge, and, it's humbling too, because you'll see that someone's like, "Oh, man, I just did this. I hope this is okay." And this is, like, okay for millions of years to come. Like, geez, man, like, I don't know how you do that. And I've
No,
always said
no
that about
pressure, but
everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
I'm the same way. If something like I like to say, you are a guitar player.
yes.
I am a guy who can play guitar. There are there's a huge difference between that, right? Like if I need a guitar player, I need somebody else to come in and play guitar. If I can just like whether I'm, stacking some stuff, power chords, some rhythm stuff, cool. But that's not my bag. Same with vocals, like not a vocalist. Gonna have to find somebody else. But like I know enough and can do enough to get things to where they need to be. Um, on my own, which I do take my pride in. But again, certain things you can't help but kind of go out and bring someone else in, which is again it's just knowing when that needs to be done.
Yeah, but the thing is too, like, even don't undersell yourself on guitar too, because again, Ace Austin and the Fallyn Grey theme, which is the theme that I had most recently heard before we hopped on our interview here. I know you just
Right?
did the one for Brittany, but
Yeah.
I had just heard that one and I was just like, okay, cool. This is, I would say, number one, the theme is awesome, but number two, the guitar, I was like, unexpected. I'm like, I love that. And it's unexpected because with again talking about some of the catalog that you have, it's just like, oh, okay, cool. Tim can really rip on this too. And with Fallyn Grey, she's somebody who's been coming up recently and she's been doing banger work. She's somebody that just again like talks about promos on socials and really tries to bring her brand out. And for her to be working with you, number one, good show. Fallyn, great taste. Fallyn, great taste. Absolutely. Talk to us a little bit how you started working with her too.
So that was through Brittnie Brooks. I met Brittany through Chris Bay. Chris Bay is one of my best friends in life. Met
Big ups to
Brittany.
Chris Bay too. I'm glad he's doing a little bit better, but oh
He
man,
is,
everyone just
dude.
give all your love to him.
Dude. He is just one of the best humans walking this planet. From just a personal friendship standpoint and every other standpoint and measurable metric there is. Um, Love him to death. I could talk a whole podcast about him if we had to.
We might have to.
Um, yeah. So we but Brittany, I had done the theme for Brittany previously. And then from my understanding, Gray had talked to Brittany, and then Brittany was the one that made that connection. She gave her my contact info. She reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'm looking to get a new theme done. Would you be willing to take a shot at it?" And I said, "Absolutely." So that was kind of like how that whole communication started there.
I love that too. And one thing that I think goes undersold, and a lot of people come and like, how do you get started doing themes, and how do you reach out to people? And I tell people all the time, like, yes, I do a lot of client outreach. I do a lot of client outreach. And, that's through whatever socials, Facebook, email, whatever you can. And with a catalog like you have, you could be like, hey, here's the stuff that I've done. It's great that you have names that people may recognize too. But I tell people, listen, if you're doing great work and you're really selling to any of these wrestlers who really need something, because the music is part, just like their gear, just like their walk out to the ring, just like all of this stuff. The music is so important. If you're really delivering to them, the referrals that you'll get from people are so beneficial and so important. And I tell people who are getting into this, I'm like, never just do the bare minimum, because you may think it's like, okay, cool, I'll just get this one done and then we're done, but people will notice. And then those referrals don't come. And then you are working with Brittnie and she's like, hey, Fallyn needs something. You're the first person on her mind, you know? Or even at that, they love that theme. Fallyn is probably just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just ask Brittnie, who did yours? And then the floodgates open from there. So the fact that you're doing that great work is awesome. And so Brittnie, again, you've worked with for a while. You did a theme for her before, and then you just ended up doing a brand new theme for her, which is sick. We'll just
Thank
keep
you.
using that word. No name theme is sick. That's what it is.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was a fun one. Let me flex the pop chops a little bit, you know. But yeah, like to your point about the like if you do great work and you can stand on your work, like that if you can do great work and be a solid human and just I'm convinced that maybe 10% of the work I've gotten is because my work is good, and the other 90% is just because I'm a good hang. And you know, I respect people and I respect their space, and I'm just me and authentic, and I try and take care of people the best I can. Like I really truly believe that. Because there's millions of talented musicians and composers and creators out there, but like, you know, to separate yourself, like you do have to be solid, and I truly do believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not even just gear or anything. That's just being able to dial into what a talent needs, right? Being able to write
Yes.
what makes sense to them, and just being, you know, I also tell people a lot of the time, like, this is a business side of it too, but it is personal, like you said. And you got to be able to work with people. And if they've got feedback for you, it's not a you thing. It's okay, cool. This is what I'm looking for. All right, cool. Let me see what I can do. Here's what makes sense. You also got to be a little bit of a translator. And that's something that I think is really important. Wrestlers would be like, I'm sorry if I'm not explaining this correctly. I'm like, you're not supposed to. I'm supposed to
Right.
be able to take what you're saying and figure out how to make that come into your ears and out of the speakers in the way that you're describing. So, you know, I
Right.
just,
And it's that is a communication thing where it's, you know, it is a talent in itself, right? Because most most wrestlers aren't also creators or understand how music works or understand how composition works, and they might ask for some things that just aren't possible or don't make sense contextually as a song, and you have to kind of figure out a way around that to give them something that still hits what they're looking for, but also will make sense in a music context, right? Which can be difficult, or they might not know how to explain it, or they might. Some guys are really and girls are really good at it. They just kind of get it, they know it. Some just don't care. Like some people are really particular, others are just like, just do your thing.
right.
You know, Ace gave me no references. He was like, I'm coming out to this right now on the indies and it's cool. So could you just kind of make something? And then very first thing I made, he's like, yep, that's it. You know, other people are like, I want it like this and it needs to be like this. And can we have it like this? Or can you try this? Can you do this? Which is also fine. You know, there's no one right or wrong way or perfect way to make it. Sometimes things just come together. Sometimes things take a little more moving around, shuffling around, depending on the situation. But to your point, yeah, they're not necessarily supposed to be able to perfectly communicate to us. It's for us to sift through and be like, okay, that's a really cool idea. Okay, that works too. Let's build off of that. That's why I kind of asked for 3 or 4 references, because they might send a couple that are just kind of like way out there that like, yeah, these are really cool songs, but they might not contextually work for you. But this other thing, this vibe, this space right here, this musical space, this can work. Or, you know, I want to combine this and this. Well, we can't because they're way too polar opposite and it's just not going to work. But if I do an intro that's kind of like this and then build it into something that's like this, then we're good to go.
Right.
Um,
And I think that's important to be able to take those references and be like, "Hey, you know what? Like maybe from this you're talking about this, and from
right.
this you're talking about the complete vibe." And usually when talent will send something, gratefully, there haven't been a lot of times where it's been like, "All right, cool. Guess what? I'm going to send you a salsa theme, a heavy metal theme, a rap track, and then
Yeah.
Zydeco or something." And it's like, gratefully it's not that, but at the same time, you are right where sometimes you'll get 3 or 4 completely different things, but you'll kind of listen in and you're like, "All right, the thing that I'm hearing here is maybe these are in kind of the same tempo, and what you're
Right.
talking about is okay, like that's the feel that we need at least for speed and things like that." But you sent over this song, and this song, for example, like has choruses or something. Like let's say someone sends over Seth Rollins' theme, or someone sends over Bailey's theme, where it started with the choir and stuff, and it's like, okay, cool. This is what you're talking about. And you're able to kind of take those elements and be like, well, here's what I did from this. See if you dig it, and if you're in that, then we're in the space. But yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about, right? Just really try to figure out like each wrestler. Here's what makes the most sense for you based on what you're delivering. Again, you send us all the information and we make it happen. And on that, before we get to some of these other questions here, what has been one of the toughest themes that you've had to do, and for who was it?
Oh, theme. Honestly, it would, I won't say toughest, but the biggest challenge was the one for Gray. Um, because it was a lot of different parts. It was a lot of me really kind of fitting things around and piecing things together. And then also just really being like, okay, like I had gotten the Ace Austin theme out, so I had proven that like, okay, I can do some heavier stuff, right? I can do a more rock theme. But now it was like, okay, now you got to show you can do it again.
Right.
Because anybody can do it once. I had to show that I could do it again. Like I can do all these other types of records, no problem. But now I got to prove that I can do this for someone else again. So that was a little daunting to me. Um, but I wouldn't say it was a difficulty because I had a blast making that thing. I had a blast with that. But again, it was more so the pressure of I got to show I can do this again, and that I got not just to her and to them, but to me, like so that was probably it. Um, as far as just like kind of like pressure and complexity and that sort of thing.
That's how I felt when I did Mercedes Martinez and Diamante's theme too, because I've worked with
Great theme.
Mercedes over the year. Oh, thank you, thank you. That one's probably one of the ones I'm most proud of, because that was the first time I had done, I guess you would call it like Latin trap, Spanish trap. Please, I am a 6'1" gringo, so excuse me for a second here. But this was one of the ones where Mercedes, I had worked with her for years, and she was like, "All right, cool. Here's this theme, and then here's Diamante's theme that they did for AEW." And there was kind of this merge of like, I don't want to make a mashup, because I also don't come from the mashup world, so I'm very weird when it comes to like, hey, taking these two things, putting them together, licensing, things like that. So for me, I'm always just like, I'd rather create something in the vein. And I'd never really done Spanish trap before, or Latin trap. And one of the things that I've told students of mine over time is one of the most important skills you can have in music is to be able to just listen and analyze, whatever that looks like. However deep you decide to go into that, you need to be able to listen in and be like, okay, cool, pick out different things. What's going on? What are some of the rhythmic things going on? What are some of the instruments? And I remember going into that one and being like, this might be one of the ones I got to pass on. But I was just like, you know what? Let me see if I can really hit something hard. And it took a little bit longer than it usually does, but at the end they were like, "Dude, this is sick." Like it represented them. You hear them using it in AEW and Ring of Honor, and I'm just like, "Dude, months ago I probably wouldn't have been able to do something like this." But that was one of the ones where even like there's no guitar in that one. And
Right.
yeah, as the silly guitarist, whittly middly, all that, you always try to fit in guitars somewhere,
You
even if it's like a
you start to
harmonic.
just subconsciously start to reach for it where you're like,
Exactly.
oh wait, no, keep that
Yep,
down
I'll
there. I don't
bury
need
it
it.
in the mix, but just for street cred, there's guitar on it.
Right.
But that one was like, yeah, there was none of it, and you just kind of rely on like, okay, cool, here's what we're going for, and that's when you really lean into what the wrestler's asking for, and like, all right, cool, let's really get it there, and then, like you said, doubling it again. There's an unreleased theme that I had done for Tessa and Reina Isis out in, I forget if it was in CMLL or AAA. I think it was CMLL, and that one was a very similar thing. That one's probably another one of my favorites, but Tessa had gotten put back into singles competition, so that one may not make the light of day soon, but that one was another one where it was like you said, you got to be able to do it again. You got to be able to
Yeah,
figure out,
yeah.
okay, can I do it again? And
Can I do it again? And then you
yeah,
kind of surprise yourself and you're like, okay, no. And then you just build that confidence, right? So now
yeah,
it's, when I do have people asking for those kind of things, there's still that little bit of like, ooh, like I got to do it again. And
yes,
it's, it hasn't been, what I've been known for. It's out of my comfort zone a little bit, and I don't mind going out of the comfort zone, but there's always that little piece in there that's like, this isn't really your thing. I hope that I can do it, and I hope I can get there. But also too, if I ever make a theme for somebody and it's just not it, I'm like, okay, that's fine. It wasn't what you were looking for. I couldn't pull it off for whatever reason, like it happens. It's no different than, working on a bunch of records for people and then none of them making the album. It's like, I know you recorded to 5 or 6 of them, but they just didn't make the cut for whatever reason. And you can't take it personal because it's not personal. And then you just kind of build and go off of there, add the unreleased stuff to the catalog, and then you've always got it to pull out in case someone else needs something else or someone else needs a record like that or those sorts of things.
I love that. So now we're going to get into a little Music City Rumble here, where we are going
Okay.
to have you book one singles match for men, one women's singles match, and one tag team match. And we're going to be having musicians versus musicians. So you get to pick the musicians wrestling in each of these matches and then say who
Okay.
would go over.
Okay. So we got men's singles, right? Okay, so we'll kick off the card with the men's singles match. And we're gonna do we'll do a battle of like the hardcore frontmen. So we're gonna do we'll do James Pliggy, the lead vocalist from Harm's Way. And I'm trying to think of like, all right, who like because James is a jack dude. James is a big guy.
Yes, he is.
And I'm like, who are we gonna have him go up against? So I think with the just the overall intensity and aura, we're gonna do Matt Honeycutt from the lead vocalist of Kubla Khan.
All right.
We're gonna have them fight, and it can be in the pit. That's fine too. We'll do like a no ropes, like blood sport type thing,
Wall
maybe.
of Death match. Absolutely.
Yeah, wall of death match. And then I'm gonna put I hesitate to pick either one of these guys, the potential blowback of the other one not going over. But we'll put James over, and what would James fin? We'll do a referee stoppage due to what's a hard he can do like the picking up pennies, punching the ground. Like that'll be the finish to the match. Referee's got to call it. So like Matt's still tough as shit, and no submission, no pinfall. He's protected. He just ref's got to stop it.
I love
That'll
that.
be the men's singles match. The women's match is hard to book. Because like it's like what's two like kind of females that I would love to see just kind of have a nice like sporting competition here. Um, well, I think so. I'm gonna stick with I'll pick two like kind of strong leading women of bands who both in their own eras kind of broke down barriers and did things that, lived in a space where not a whole lot of females did. So we'll do Haley Williams of Paramore versus Debbie Harry of Blondie.
Ooh. All
I
right.
think they would have a nice, respectful babyface versus babyface match. Or Debbie could play heel. I don't think Haley could play heel.
I think
Um,
Haley Williams would also be in on that match. Like, I think if you got her on the show and she'd be like, yeah,
right.
you know what? Yeah. sitting across
I
from
mean,
Tim. Yeah, that's great.
let's do it. And we'll put Haley over. What would Haley's finisher be? Phoenix Splash. Haley wins, pinfall, Phoenix Splash. Real easy, fun match, just like hyper competitive. That's yeah. That'll be the women's match there.
I love that. And then how about our tag team?
Tag team we'll put in main event. This was kind of like a super fun one to think about. So we're gonna do Havoc and Prodigy of Mobb Deep versus Juicy J and DJ Paul of 3-6 Mafia. It'll be a tornado tag, no DQ, just all the bells and whistles.
They always got to
Two of
be
the
tornado
most
tags. Yes.
right. Two of the most hardcore of all time, just in a bloodbath. All the other members of 3-6 can get involved, and then the unofficial third member of Mobb Deep, Alchemist, can come down and kind of run them off. We can do a whole thing, or we can just keep it straight up 2-on-2. But I'm gonna put over Mobb Deep because they're the greatest rap group of all time, and we'll do what would Mobb Deep? We need cool tag team. Spike Pile Driver.
Love that.
Spike Pile Driver from Mobb Deep. They get the pinfall. DJ Paul takes the pin. Juicy J would never take the pin.
I
And
love that.
yeah, Mobb Deep goes over.
That's great. And then one more question. If you had to choose 3 songs that represent you, No Name Tim, what would those 3 songs be?
Okay. 3 songs, and I'm not gonna pick songs that I have been a part of or have written. Just to kind of give, a little bit of representation of what has, led me to make the songs that I do and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So song 1 is by Fall Out Boy. Fall Out Boy is my favorite band of all time. I've caught a lot of flack for that over the years. But
Well, those people are wrong.
Go argue with the wall. Like, I'm here to, like, From Under the Cork Tree is a 10 out of 10 album, 0 skips. Infinity on High is incredible. Patrick and Pete's chemistry together is just second to none as far as a composer working with someone else writing lyrics and putting things together.
Yes.
So Fall Out Boy, 7 Minutes in Heaven out of Van Halen. That'll be my one song. From a personal standpoint, dealing with themes of depression and that sort of thing, and things that Pete's gone through, and just musically it rocks, and just it's a catchy tune. It's probably my favorite of their, not super, out there well-known songs, we'll say.
I love that.
So that's one. Circling back to Mobb Deep, again, greatest rap group of all time. I'm gonna pick Survival of the Fittest from Mobb Deep. They're just again best rap group of all time. I could listen to Mobb Deep all day, their entire catalog, and their ability to just stay true to their sound and just evolve it over time. Like, every Mobb Deep album sounds like a Mobb Deep album, and it's just maybe slightly different or slightly evolved, which is something that just I've respected over the years. And just growing up a hip hop head, and everybody who knows me, just like, rap music was my major thing growing up. And so I had to pick one rap song. I could have done all 3 rap songs, but I was like, I want to give little different pieces of me.
Love it.
And then the third song was kind of like a tough one to pick, because again, so many songs to choose from that I feel like kind of like represent who I am. But I'm going to pick a Nirvana song, because while Fall Out Boy is my favorite band of all time, I think Nirvana is the greatest band of all time. But I'm not going to pick one that most people would think. I'm going to pick Where Did You Sleep Last Night off their Unplugged album.
Ooh, good one.
Which is, an interpolation of the In the Pine song from, an old American folk song. That performance from them, from the band as a whole, but Kurt especially, his vocal is so beautiful and sad at the same time, and it's just such a haunting performance. But every time I listen to it and every time I hear it, um, it that like sadness, but also like the just like the again the power and the beauty in it. It helps me to kind of make sense of the noise that goes on in my own head in any given day. And you know, it's just one of those songs where you just can't quite put your finger on it, other than the performance of it. That like every time I hear it, like just hits me in the emotions. You know, it just speaks to me.
And that's such an iconic, not just track, but that's such an iconic performance too. And there's so much legacy that goes into it and so much background into that one. And it's just like to choose a song not just by them, but to choose a song that really sits in what I would call like a legacy record. I don't
Yes,
think that could be understated. And that's an awesome
exactly.
choice. Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
well, Tim, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always great to talk to other entrance theme composers and one who has done so much that you have and just be able to talk the shop a little bit. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm flattered that you would even consider to have me on here. It's still
I feel
like
like it's
surreal
not
to me.
ropes and riffs. It's not an entrance theme show unless we have you on. So,
Thank you so much, man. I do. I appreciate it. I'm super humbled by everything, and to just be a part of the music wrestling community is just like the coolest thing. It was something I always wanted to be a part of, but didn't know how to even get in there. And then so the fact that, as luck would have it, as chance would have it, I have gotten to be a part of it is super important to me, and I love every second of it. So thank you.